How's it going, mate? You all right?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Just beginning my next set of 4 days off. So yeah, looking forward to some time to chill out and just relax a bit now.
Yeah, I've just started my 5 days working.
You never stop. What are you on about?
Yeah, I was on about annual leave earlier, and I've got quite a bit. Well, to be honest, mate, excuse the expletives, but I've got fucking shitloads, and
Yeah,
it's sort of. I was thinking it's June in a matter of weeks, and I've only got till the end of September. Well, it's not even the end of September, end of August. So, but I'm getting that busy, and I've obviously factoring in like all my other stuff, and it's just like I think I need to really like focus now on me and book them in. So
it's interesting, isn't it? Because I probably got the same problem. I got sort of time that I wasn't able to take last year, because of lockdown and stuff and how busy we were. And yeah, it's I think it's about being motivated to take it in a way. So part of me is sitting there thinking it's unusual because, like, what am I going to do with time off?
yeah, to be honest, mate, you kind of hit the nail on the head for me because my old manager used to say, oh, I live for annual leave. You know, you need to recharge. And I was like, yeah, but I don't book leave if I haven't got anything to do. If that makes sense. Like the last time I've done that, I think I ended up like I went and did something for one of my part-time gigs. I had a lie in. It was like, no, what?
Yeah, no, it's difficult. And like I said, if there's, difficult not to travel or have plans to go abroad and things, it's, still doesn't feel like the right time to be experimenting abroad.
Oh yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah, it's difficult really. But yeah, I mean, it is important to recharge, and there's no doubt about that. I suppose my shift patterns allow me to do that on a fairly regular basis. So adding to that, you know, yeah, it's just interesting, isn't it? Really, how things have changed like that.
Oh yeah, in the mindset of relaxing and I mean with restrictions easing today, um, it kind of things are slow. Well, if there's ever going to be a normal, but I think with work now, especially for in the line of work that I do, there's going to be more like remote working from home and sort of focusing on doing things differently because I've taken on board, what you said the other week when I reached out on TikTok and you spoke to me about time blocking. I haven't brought a time block book, but I've been using it in my file of facts, and that's helped me out massively trying to prioritize time because it came in my head, mate, about the pieces of advice that I had when I was going to speak to sort of the counsellors around gambling and sort of other bits and bobs. And she referred to I think I mentioned this before to you, and I'm sure you'll know what it is, that the gambling triangle, and there's three sides to it. And obviously, if you remove a side, you don't get a triangle. And the one that always stuck in my head was time. So she was obviously like, prioritize your time, book out, do things that make you happy, productive, etc. And then the other was a lot access and money. So she,
Yeah, I mean, it's something you said there, Stuart. Yeah, just regards to the word of the day, maybe is adjustment, because, like I said, it's. I think we've all got to come to terms and adjust to what is the new normal, and life is ever changing, always is, and I think lots of people struggle with that concept of, as I said to you before, sort of, when we have one of our offline chats, around, time time is merciless. It just keeps going, whether you like it or not. It's not going to stop for you just because you're not in the right place, you're not in the right space, and you just got to adjust and accept that things are constantly changing and evolving. It's really hard, I think, if you have a mindset where you go, I want it to go back to the way it was, and it's never ever going to. even without a pandemic, it's never ever going to be like it was.
Yeah, it's I'm just thinking personally as well, like some of the things that have happened over the last week, and adaptable is really, being adaptable even is really important. And sharing with the guys that are watching, me and John had a real good chat yesterday about sort of mindset, and asking the question like, is it me that has the issue, not me thinking it's the recipient or the person in question. And being adaptable, mate, it's forever changing, and it goes off what Shafak was saying, wasn't she, about times evolving, and if you're evolving, that's progress.
Yeah,
And then,
I think it's something that we all struggle with. Like I say, well, I'll go into more detail in another episode probably, because there's some guests that I'd like to sort of invite to come and join us for a chat. But it's been a period of personal adjustment for me. My wife's going to be away for a couple of months now. I've ended up being in your situation, where literally like come home and it's just me and the cat, and it just it is a, yeah, well, but it is adjustment. You've got a can of beer, so you're but you know what I mean, it's adjustment, and it's learning that things are different, things will keep moving, and things do change, and people come and go, jobs come and go, things, and everything is changing. And that's a real sort of big sort of concept to sort of understand. And like you say, when you're interacting with people, and like we were talking about, like you say, on the phone yesterday, when you're interacting with different people, it can be really interesting as to how much you truly know about anyone, Stuart. When it boils down to it, we're quite open with each other, but I'm sure there's lots of things that you don't tell me, and lots of things that I don't tell you.
oh, yeah,
And you only know so much about a person. And I think, but what you should truly know, and what I would always encourage and advocate really, is just know yourself. Spend that time getting to know yourself. And that's the challenge, really.
When we spoke about that yesterday, and I know I say this a lot on the calls, and people probably think, oh, John's thrown a grenade in, but I think having these conversations, because I don't know the stats, but I'm confident that I'm going to say pretty much 100% of the population, I've thrown it out there, I've said it, may not, or think they know themselves, but I personally think they don't. And that's just like from conversations. I mean, I haven't spoken to everyone on the planet, so I can't really back that up. But from my own lived experiences, my close friends, my family, associates, you really, really start to think to yourself, like, do they want to explore new things? Are they, comfortable with who they really are? And I'm pretty confident as well, mate, that near enough everyone, or 100% of everyone, has suffered and will suffer at some point, mental health issues and well-being, and is affected on some way, shape or form. And it's something that emotional intelligence is something that, through my journey over the last 4 years, 5 years, I'd like to think it's improved, but there's still elements of it, mate, I clearly haven't. And I allow things, and I'm not going to go into detail, but don't say it, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it, said.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I think, these are the things. I had a conversation recently with a colleague at work around just sort of that level of understanding, and people that know about like Maslow's theory of hierarchy. And if you don't, go and Google it, Maslow. The guy obviously came up with this pyramid basically, and I just recognize how lucky, fortunate, blessed, whatever word you would like to describe the fact that because I've got all the basics at the bottom of that pyramid taken care of. I've got shelter, I've got food, I've got, social interaction with other people. And at the top of that pyramid, self-actualization, self-awareness. I'm lucky that I have the time, because all of those things are taken care of, Stuart, to be able to sit there and think about life, think about me, think about why I think the way that I do. And something you said then is, people really need to understand my take on it, my opinion. I'm not an expert, but my take on that is, it will never ever stop.
Yeah.
And that mic drop moment, like I said to you the other day, it's just like, when's that going to stop then? When's the process going to stop?
Yeah.
The day you die. That's it.
Yeah, you've really made a valid point there, and it's I've been having conversations, and I will be quite open that, and the depth of the conversation that I've been having with other people, and I'm obviously not going to share names now, but that mindset of, trust the process, the long game, better never stops, be a better version today than what you were yesterday. And I'm really sort of like, in my head, it feels like I've got loads of spaghetti and I'm slowly like pulling each string away. That's what it feels like in my head at the moment, and recognizing that not everyone maybe understands that journey, not everyone appreciates that journey, not everyone thinks like that, and I just think there's so much to ask and learn and visit, and the example that we spoke about yesterday, like traveling, or someone's conduct, or mindset towards work life. And as I said, even now I still think about it, mate, in the sense of I have it on my home screen on my laptop, that the richest place in the world is the graveyard. And I definitely don't want to be that guy that, if and when my time comes, and not any day soon, I think to myself, oh shit, I wish I'd done this, or, I'm glad I did this instead of. I want more of that than thinking, I wish. And
yeah, it's finding that. I think the key, what I've learned for myself, and what I need to understand, really, just to sort of give myself a little bit of a break, because you could write a long list, bucket list of things that you want to do, Stuart. The reality is that, we have to work, we have other commitments, we have to do certain things. You're not going to achieve them all. It's not a Hollywood movie. You're not going to sit there on the top, like the bucket list movie, sit on the top of the pyramids, ticking them off and going, yeah, done them all. No, it's not like that. But there should be, like a desire, really, maybe, or a yearning to at least, what is it that makes you happy? What is it that makes you content? And if you have the opportunity to do those things, then do those things. And they can be really small. They don't have to be, oh yeah, I want to go to Ayers Rock in Australia, which takes, for the average bloke would probably take, a year's of wages to save up for, and so on, and plan, and and so on. It just can be simple things. I just think it's about giving yourself a break, really. Like you say, no regrets is really interesting, because I don't think necessarily that that's sort of avoidable. You're going to have some regrets. You're going to have some. That's what I mean about, you're going to look at that list and go, oh, I wish I'd done that. You don't really want to regret it. You just want to go, well, I did look. It's not half empty, half full approach, I suppose, isn't it?
It's I genuinely think it's getting the balance. So I think that's where I struggle at the moment. Is like, you said it at the start of the call, like, oh, you never stop. And, a few of my friends at work have kind of clocked onto that as well. And, the bit of the banter flying around. And I think to myself, technically I don't, but I know deep down what I'm striving for. But even then, it's that balance of, I want to learn so many new things, but I can't be learning things all the time if I'm working or developing myself. And
But there's ways. It's, I suppose, you know, some real sort of real talk. We're friends, and this is how we talk, you know, all of the time, really. And you know, real talk for you, Stuart, I think is redefining what the word learning means, because you're talking about learning, and your language, you know, is always about personal development, you know, and stuff like that. When really the learning, it can be inward, and it's not outward. It's not for a purpose other than for you to have a better understanding of you. And that's what I have really focused on, I think, in the last few years, is have a better understanding of me. So what is the end goal for that then? The end goal is to be able to feel more peaceful and contented with who I am, and not be so distracted, influenced by other things, controlling the controllables as we talk, just accepting and understanding. Things are going to be a bit shit sometimes. Things aren't going to go the way that you planned. You're not going to be earning X or doing Y or living in a certain situation, but that's okay. What is the purpose? Trying to figure out that. That's what I mean about self-actualization. Trying to figure out the purpose, trying to figure out how I tick, because that's the one thing that I've always got with me, if you like. Yeah, that's not about other things. That's just about me. I don't know if that makes sense.
no,
But
it does, yeah, and it's as I said to you, you know, and you've acknowledged the fact that, you know, our conversations have changed and differed, and I'd like to think I'm slowly understanding myself a lot better than what I did, and I'll be the first one to admit that I thought, oh, you know, there's no areas of development for me. Well, technically, there's a lot, and you know, I'll be the first one to admit that. And you know, some of the conversations we've been having about, you know, previous roles and friendships and relationships, and some of that's kind of like come full circle, and kind of how I've reacted to it. It's kind of like, you know, that was then, this is now. I'm a different person. You know, for I don't like the word good and bad, you know, like, but you've learned from it, haven't you? And
yeah,
you know, and not over analysing, or I'm still friends with that person, or I'm still employed, or you know, I've got no what's the word, black mark to my name or anything else. It's kind of, it's come and gone, and you know, there was no real dramas. And how I react to things is something that I'm seeing, like, personally in myself as well, and making some choices which I'd like to think are calculated, you know, whereas before I probably would sort of permanent decision on a temporary feeling scenario. You know?
and I think it's something you said earlier as well, Stuart. You know, I mean, it is recognizing, like, the word suffering, and I think, you know, like the stuff that I've read about Buddhism and understood about, you know, that's what Buddha had to go through to experience and recognize that life is about suffering. That's how you know you're alive, is that you had those sort of emotions, if that makes sense. That if you were totally numb to that, then you've not really acknowledged or understood, you know, that is life, that it is, you know, ecstasy and suffering, that you have all of those moments. They come, they go, they're all, you know, and it's just trying to reduce that suffering. Don't try and avoid it. You know what I mean? You just have to make sure that, you know, you do keep that balance. And I think that's the key, really. You know what I mean? And I suppose the challenge is that the rhetorical question that I'm throwing your way is, you know, do you recognize when those thoughts cause you suffering? That's the question.
I think I do, and I'll explain why I've said I think. I'm a lot better at recognising that the thoughts come in, if that makes sense. Whereas before I'd kind of denied the thought. And it happened to me yesterday, if I'm being honest. Like, as I said, don't send it, 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 sent. Why in my head it's kind of like, why am I bothered by it? Why am I allowing it to affect me? Whereas in the grand scheme of things, like, I do believe in trusting the process, and what will be will be. But it was that element of, I, I suppose I'm three quarters of the way of understanding it. If I'm being honest, like, I now understand the thought process, because I'm going to be quite open now. On the weekend, um, the person I'm seeing and was off doing something, so I was kind of left to my own devices. So went to the local shopping centre, and I got a few bits and bobs, and quite a productive day actually. Well, morning, but obviously, like any other high street, you see all the shops, and the shops I'm referring to, and that choo choo, like the thought train came, and I thought, no, I don't need to, don't want to, I've got better things to do, and I expressed that emotion after, and just sort of said like why I thought what I thought. So I think for me, I better no, I have a better understanding now when the thoughts come in, but sometimes the chimp in my brain will sort of kind of throw a grenade in, or bat it away, or put it on a different track. I will still kind of not necessarily do that, because I haven't done that. I can check now actually, for the benefit of the chat whilst I'm checking on my phone. But I've got the app here. But for me, it's more the fully recognizing it's probably a silly thought that's been in my head. How can I actually like build that behavior to bat it away, because it's a thought. So it's
that's the trick, Stuart. I think the trick is to recognize, and again, sort of reading lots of stuff recently, and the trick is to just recognize and understand. When we talk about change and everything's ever evolving, and literally, I do mean this, pre-disclaimer, as it were. I do mean it in a very non-morbid way, but the relief that I feel when I understand that everything I know and everybody that I know is going to die. Everything is going to die. That beautiful flower that I'm looking at now will die and not exist anymore.
Yeah.
And there's a beauty in understanding. If you treat your thoughts like that as well, Stuart, that thought will come and go. Just watch it like, like a leaf floating down the river. Here it comes. There it is. There it goes.
Yeah. Before we go on, your phone, that's better. Your phone was in the way.
Sorry, buddy. Yeah.
That's all right. But I think we title the conversation, what you just said about the thoughts, and it's something that when you explain it in such a way, you think, oh shit, like what? And I'm very guilty of it. You know that. You know me better than most, and my nan and my best friends would advocate that I am a bit of an overthinker, and don't think, and then it's come and gone. Like, and I put it in the viewpoint of other people who I perceive are thinking things and whatever. Are they? I'm sure their thoughts are like gone. Yeah,
I don't think anybody is. That's the point. I think it's everybody's thoughts are like that, and yet not everybody recognises that everybody's thoughts are like that, and that's the trick. The trick is to at least acknowledge and start acknowledging. Oh yeah, if I again, I've done this to you before, but it helps polarize. If I asked you what you were thinking at this time, exactly this time last week, you can't remember, Stuart.
Yeah.
Because it's gone. It's been and gone. And it's just the trick is to let it go, Stuart, to just acknowledge and go, okay, I'm having that thought. Quiet for a minute. There it goes.
Yeah.
And it's just that. And if you can just do that in the moment and not react, respond, or cling on to it, and start fueling it and go, hold on a minute. I want to think about that one more. I'm going to keep thinking about it. Hold on, don't let it go. I'm gripping on really tight now. I want to think about that. How do you really feel about that? Start probing and questioning yourself internally. Here comes more thoughts and they cluster around it. That's what overthinking is, in my understanding. And I'm just go, oh, look, there's a really stupid thought about someone is judging me and I'm feeling crap. Okay.
Yeah.
See ya.
I'll tell you the analogy that I just had in my head about overthinking. I'm probably like Sylvester Stallone in Cliffhanger. You know, I'm like gripping on like one thing, you know, like in the Hollywood movies where
Exactly.
I know sometimes I have to let go, but I'm very much like the opposite of that. It has impacted relationships. It has, full stop. And relationships as a whole, bracket A to Z of relationships. I know it has, and it still does to this day. And I've got better. I know I have. But I think, you know, the conversation has been very, very important to share, mate, and treating it like it come and go. It does, doesn't it? Thoughts. I mean,
they do if you let them. That's the trick. They do if you let them.
And that's the key message, really. Because I've got better at letting them go, but I'm still part of that journey of doing that.
Trust me, like I said, I don't ever, hopefully, ever come across and, you know, like I'm perfect. No one is. And boy, do I have moments where I ruminate and ruminate. What I've learned to do is just the art of recognition. The art of just oh, look, there you go again. That self-talk, that little voice inside your head, that mini John that's sitting there going, oh, look, you're talking about that again, ain't you? You're still thinking about that bad moment again, ain't you?
Yeah.
You know, and it's almost like slapping myself with a wet fish inside and just going, shut up, let it go. It's all going to be good. It's going to move on in a minute if you just let it go. Think about something else. And that's the concept, ultimately, Stuart. You know, when people talk about mindfulness and all of this sort of stuff, it's just, I'll give you an example. You know, working last night, had, you know, somebody that was obviously emotionally distressed, you know, lashing out at me on a phone call. I go outside, have a fag, about 4 o'clock in the morning. Start hearing the birds chirping up in a tree above me. And I'm still in my head. I'm still in my head. And thankfully, little Johnny comes along and goes, can you hear that bird? Dawn's breaking, innit? That's the first bird song of the morning. All that negativity's gone. I'm now focused on, oh yeah, that's cool, isn't it? You see what I mean, Stuart? It's just, how do you distract yourself from the previous thought and move forward and clear that? And that's really what mindfulness is we'll start looking around. What can you see? What can you smell? What can you hear? That's mindfulness. That's one little trick that you can just go, yeah, just start looking around, start observing what's happening rather than thinking about what just happened a moment ago.
Yeah, I again, something that I know I've got better at, but you know, if I rewind, you know, all those years ago when the Oslo conversation, I'm sure many of the people who've watched this will pick up on that, but I proper blinkered. You know, I chose to be blinkered, if that's the best way of describing it. You know, I wasn't blinkered. I chose to put the blinkers there, and it felt like I had blinkers like that, like sort of not being able to see much. And then over time, I started to realise, you know, this isn't the way of, you know, dealing with whatever I was going through or how I was feeling. And like you said, you know, the mindfulness of trying to do things and focus on things that make you better. Now, and don't get me wrong, you know, some people are in control and can go to outlets, and you know, but many others out there can't. And that's the key thing that I've really tried, especially living here. You know, like you said to me the other day, it's pretty much me here. You know, I have my kids every other weekend. I see them in the week, but in terms of guests, a handful of people. I'm talking a handful of people, and so keeping my thoughts, myself engaged, and what I'm trying not to do And I don't class this, our two blokes on the phone. We're impacting and helping people and helping ourselves, but trying to not do work all the time. Like you said, reading a book, and where I live, there's some nice use for use. But you can hear the birds, and sometimes you watch the world go by, and just little things like that. That's what I'm starting to really appreciate. And I got asked a question yesterday, mate, actually, for I saw on social media and another project I'm involved with. The best things in life are free, and what do you deem that to be? So in my head, I was thinking, to be grateful of what I've got. But then when I sort of explored the question, nature, your friends, your family, compassion, friends that care for you, I think they're the best things in life, are free and having.
Yeah, I mean, I had a great quote sort of in and around that the other day. It's just like the wealthiest people, in life, or the richest people in life, are not the poor ones that have nothing, but the rich ones that want more. And I was like, damn, it's just that's the point. Because you and I know that we've traveled to places, and perspective wise, we've seen people in relative poverty type situations. Weren't they the happiest people you probably ever met, Stuart?
Yeah, and it's something that
it's mind blowing when you take yourself into that situation and you think, why aren't you unhappy?
Yeah, it's that because I remember being in a role, and I think it might have been before Ghana when I went to Kenya, and I spoke about working with the the volunteer project over there in the community, and they were like, oh, but they know no different. I said, some of them probably don't have access to TVs and stuff, but they're very aware that every year groups of people from England and Great Britain fly over, and they see them with smartphones. And unfortunately, there was times where we went to it's on my Facebook anyway, if anyone wants to see it, but like the dumpage ground, or the tip, or I'm trying to think of it, and there's loads of people there basically selling stuff of recycled goods, and all I'm guilty of it. I was there. So you're telling me, like, people, don't clock on to things, and they have access to the internet.
They're fully aware, Stuart. You know what it is, Stuart. It's not that they, I don't think that's a situation of ignorance is bliss. They have people, even if they don't sit there and glued to the internet like you and I would be, but they're aware. The difference is, I think, and my understanding is about acceptance. They've accepted, here's my circumstances. There's bugger all I can do about it other than keep doing what I'm doing and working hard. You know what I mean? And whether that be through education or, like you say, using the opportunities that are around them. I live near this huge waste site. I'm going to recycle some of these goods, that I find that other people have thrown away, and I'm going to make ends meet.
Yeah.
And it's because it's about acceptance. They accept that this is the situation, and I either have a choice to sit here and moan about it and be unhappy, or choose to accept it and move forward and continue to at least enjoy the experience that is called life.
Yeah, I sort of contradict that thought in my head. I am very grateful. I'm very lucky. I know I am. We've spoken about this before. Like the 1% of people who and mortgages, are they good? Are they bad? Did it make you successful or whatever? But I have a range of employment. I have a mortgage. Blah 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 blah. But then that acceptance for me, I want more. And wanting more can come in a different way. And me, mate, we've spoken about this, and we've spoken about it on here. Wanting more for me at the moment is financially responsibility. But then it's like, why do I want more? Because and that's the conflicting thought that I've got in my head at the moment, because I want to have more and be able to do more. but what's the root of me wanting that? And it's something that I'm not saying I'm going left or right, because I'm never going to be, a Richard Branson or anyone like that. Or
yeah, you know what it is, Stuart? I'm just suddenly thinking, and I've said this before, like my wife and I have conversations like this. When people hear certain words can be very, very triggering, for different individuals. And for some, it just means what it means. You get what I mean? But the reality is that I think acceptance is one of those words, because I think the majority of people, I've learned through having conversations like this, that when people hear the word acceptance, they interpret it, and it goes through their own narrative filters and their experiences. And what they hear is, give up, don't do anything more, don't strive for anything else, just accept your lot, don't want more, don't do anything else, just give up. They hear it and they interpret it like wave the white flag, Stuart, when that's not really what acceptance is. And it's not how I interpret it. I interpret it as accept what you have now. Don't complain that it's not more. Don't complain that it's, don't big yourself up, as I've said before, like treating blame and praise in exactly the same way. Just accept this is a situation. I can only control the controllables. What am I going to do today that's going to make my life the same as it was yesterday and today and now? And therefore, you can have both things. You can go, today I'm doing an action that I hope will constantly make me more aware, better, improve, financially, emotionally, whatever it might be. You can have both. One doesn't mean it's not black or white. It is just literally acceptance means accepting that, as we've sort of said, and I'm learning to understand that acceptance just means that. It doesn't mean, I give up. I don't aspire to ever be better, to read more, to learn more, to do better things, have more experiences. I'm not giving up. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. And I can reflect on that myself, like a couple of years ago, I was kind of sofa surfing between, I slept on my nan's sofa, which is really comfortable, by the way.
Highly recommended.
Yeah, highly recommended, especially when you've been fed by nan. But I lived with my uncle and I would kind of deny where I lived. My uncle's done very well for himself, but on his land, let's say, blah, 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 there was a caravan. I lived in the caravan. It was a big static. But because of the distance from work, I'd spend some nights with my nan, some nights with my auntie, because obviously my other work, and then some nights, obviously this was kind of before COVID, with my partner, Jenny, and sort of that routine. It got to the point where, trust me, I'm driving and I'm close to tears some days. Oh, fuck's sake, I'm 30, whatever, 35 might have been, and I'm in this situation. But then deep down, did I accept that would be my forever situation? I did. But then something in the back of my head was like, the tides are turning, because I've been consistent and I've been, saving, and obviously having support, to the point where what you've just said sort of proves that, like you said earlier about the emotions and thoughts, they do come and go. And as long as you have that mindset of wanting to be a better person and in every way, shape or form, like you said, emotionally, physically, spiritually.
I just think acceptance is really a single word that describes, for me, this is what it describes. I am not going to beat myself up for not having more right now.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. End of. I'm not going to beat myself up because I'm living in a caravan, or I'm not going to beat myself up. Other people will do that and do a better job thanks very much.
Yeah,
I'm not going to beat myself up.
I'm nearer the acceptance bit in terms of how you've defined it, and I agree totally with that. I just remember looking back on it now, and I'm like, people can see in the background, I'm very lucky, and and it's kind of, I'm happy with what I've got, but I'm trying to be better today than what I was yesterday, and that's my mantra as such. Every day, do the right thing, control the controllables.
But equally, Stuart, on that, something that I learned. This people are getting like an insight into my head. You know what I mean? Because even though I have been guilty, for want of a better word, of saying all I really want to be is better than I was yesterday, and I'm now even challenging that, Stuart. I'm going, actually, I just want to accept today's all right. Worry about tomorrow when it comes. Let's not think about tomorrow. You get what I mean? It's just like, and if then tomorrow comes and I get to the end of tomorrow, Stuart, and I haven't been better than I was yesterday, by having that level of acceptance and self-care and self-love, then it doesn't turn it into a bad day and a bad thought.
Yeah, I'm trying for it to be like you said, like that, but I'm kind of like this at the moment.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I could explain on that. But for me, it's like, I'm tempted to share something on the screen in a minute, an analogy that I definitely haven't stole the concept of the game, because there's other games out there if anyone's watching, but the Trivial Pursuit analogy, and I'm sure people know, and the 6 cheeses triangles. And what I try and base my life on is, obviously I'm never going to complete that, because like Shafak said the other week, as long as you're adaptable and you want to adapt, you've kind of not fulfilled life, but you're open-minded to progression and learning. And so for me, like, I always try and say to myself, look, how can I chip away at that emotional triangle, that financial triangle, that health triangle, the spiritual triangle? That's what I'm trying to do now, is like every day. I'm not going to complete the set, and I never intend to, but chip away at things, because today I've learned something about finances, something related to me, and it's kind of made sense. I was like, oh, okay, if I chip away at that, I'm able to make a difference elsewhere and fulfill, by giving, and it's not the world's biggest amount. I'm exploring, even though it looks sprightly clean, I'm trying my best to learn about cooking different things, and how I can not waste food, and so it's little things like that, mate. And that's what I try and base it on at the moment, is every day. But similar to what you said, I'm trying to get away from that, put the quilt, over me and think, fuck, like, I haven't read a book today, or I didn't send that email. If it's something that absolutely needed to be done, that's a different conversation. But in the grand scheme of things, is like, I've done what I can. I'm happy with that. Just try and do something different or better tomorrow. That's my mindset on it anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, and what you've described, like with the Trivial Pursuit stuff, it is like a classic, coaching technique, if you like. And again, people that are listening can go on Google, like the Wheel of Life, because what you're describing there is, and I've said to people before, if you like break down, relationships is one piece, finance is another piece, health is another piece, work, and you can break it down. And there's lots of ways that you can break it down, and then sort of divide it into 10, and then give yourself a score today, right now, out of 10 what is your finances like? You know what I mean? How is your relationship? How is your family? Relationships. How are and then if you do that, and trust me, most people's, the trick to this, Stuart, is doesn't matter if you score yourself a 2 out of 10 on all of those departments. What really matters is whether it is a consistent 2 or a 5 all the way around. Yeah. Because if one's a 10, the other one's a 2, another one's an 8, and so on and so forth. It sort of can be consistent, and then you'll see this huge sort of dent in it. Now imagine that wheel being the wheel of life on a car that you're driving, and then you're surprised that the journey's a bit bumpy. Because that's what's going on, because there's a bit in your life that you haven't got that nice complete circle, and it doesn't matter whether it's just a 2, you can build it all up to be a 3.
Yeah, and that's I've wrote that down because well, I'm not going to share the whole thing, but I've written down research, but I remember doing that with you, and you sort of mentored me on it, and I remember the difference it made on me, and the way you described it to me at the time, like exactly what you just said. Don't feel too bad that, because I was similar to you, what you've just described. I know if you remember, mate, I can remember it now. Whilst I was trying to use your Mac before I was losing my head, because I had to use the control. Oh, I don't know. I have nightmares about that. That's another conversation. But I remember you sitting down with me and talking to me about it. And when you broke it down, and again, it's acceptance, isn't it? It's acceptance of.
It is. It's just accepting. Who tells you all of this stuff? Who's created and influenced this? Think of just, we say like our brain is like the most powerful computer there's ever been. You know what I mean? In that sense. So who's uploaded all of this information and software into your head that's made you go, 2's unacceptable, I must be a 3, and I'm going to beat myself up continually every single day until I get to a 3? Who told you all that? Who created? Who downloaded? Recognize who downloaded that, and go and do a few bug fixes and updates now and again, and just get it to the point where you go, where I like to think on a good day, and there are more good days than bad days, I'm sitting there going, yeah, I'm quite happy being a 3, thanks. Quite happy. Today's all right. It's just a 3. At least it's nice and smooth. I've got people that I can talk to. My finances are all right. I'm not starving. I've got food in the cupboard. I've got a roof over my head. Today's a good day.
Yeah, and that's a key message, and one that I know I need reminding consistently about, how fortunate I actually am. And it's getting that balance for me at the moment, because I am driven, and I'm not going to change that, but it's how I manage it within my head, and how I manage it, that not everyone thinks like me or wants to be what I want to, and all that type of stuff. But it's kind of accepting that I am very lucky, and I am fortunate, and there are, as I would word, areas of development. I mean, my one at the moment, in terms of categorizing it, is like a number 1 or a 2, a 3, sort of like the sort of past experiences that others may have had, or have had whilst with me or are with me, and sort of I'm guilty sometimes of sort of like digging, or asking, and it's kind of like, well, focus on the now, focus on the tomorrow. Because did you watch that Ian Wright program?
No, I still haven't seen it. I've seen clips of it.
Yeah, really good, mate. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I watched it, and other people came in my head, and I kind of reached out and said, look, watch it. But I took notice of it, instead of deflecting it. It was the first time in a while that, and I haven't had some of the experiences that were discussed on that program, but some of them resonate. And it's like accepting and allowing that thought process, and to think those bumps in the road, it's not the destination, it's the journey. And I thoroughly took a lot from that. And that's kind of what I'm trying to accept now, is, that it's never going to be, as I said, the full Trivial Pursuit set or the 10s all round. But it's going to be, as long as I can chip away and make it 2.5 and that type of thing, really.
It's interesting, Stuart, because, again, I have a tendency to do this right at the end of these conversations, but incoming, put your hard hat on. You know, it's so. What if you don't?
If I don't what?
Meet these goals that you're sitting in your head thinking about right now. What does that mean to you then? Does that mean it's been a shit life? What a waste of time.
No. And it's that balance, isn't it? I think for me.
But that's what I'm trying to get you to sort of think about a lot, really, is not because I think I'm wise and wonderful or just, but those are the sorts of questions that just bounce around in my head. And that's what again, going back, I'm just coming at it from a different angle, Stuart. That's acceptance. So what if it doesn't happen? If the truthful answer is, doesn't matter at all.
I think that, to answer your question, and I'm not going to, I'd like to think I'm kind of allowing the grenade, but I've diverted it slightly. I'll kind of like hit it in another direction. I think for me, not think I know, I'm going to be quite blunt when I say that. I know for me, it's that I want to try and be the best version of me, you know, and I'm quite open when I say this, and you know, and I intend not to upset anyone. But my mum and dad, there couldn't be any more chalk and cheese if you tried. And I'm not going to go into core specifics about who's who, you know, because I definitely don't want to go down that route on this channel just yet. But you know, actually, I will. My mum, like, unbelievable, caring, loving, considerate, empathy, sympathy, you know, lots of it. And my dad has pockets of that, you know, and because of the male relationship. But if I was to play Monopoly with my mum, she wouldn't be the banker. I'd be quite blunt. You know? And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But then on the flip side, my dad's frugal, you know, was quite switched on, you know, lots of different things. So I take aspects of both. And I think for me, what they've both taught me, as long as with my step parents and, you know, and my auntie, my nan, and a few other family members, is trying to do the right thing, you know, try and be a better version of yourself and not, I think there's always room to do more, but where I get the mixture of the both for me is that as long as I've tried to do more, because I don't want to be that person, and this is me personally speaking now, you know, I don't want to be that guy who didn't travel, but I don't think I'm always going to be at travel. I don't think I'm going to be able to travel to Bali or the Taj Mahal, you know, or Dubai.
What if again, grenade part 2. So again, it's just, I'm just sitting here reflecting, because this is how I think really, Stuart. It is, what if you replace the word better
with
something else that doesn't, because I think better, as we've talked about before, what I'm learning is the word better implies that you weren't good enough yesterday. And so, or you weren't good enough now, and so better is constantly striving for, you know, improvement. Whereas there's no acceptance, you know, or there's little room, shall I say, for acceptance of you're not going to get it right all of the time, and that's just called life.
Yeah, I think for me, no, I keep saying that. I know for me, I will never change that approach. I want to strive for things. I'd like to achieve as much as I can.
Well, of course you won't, because you just said you're never going to change it.
Yeah. But where you've thrown a good question in is, you know, failure, you know, another acronym I'm going to throw out there, you know, first attempt in learning and understanding that it ain't going to be well done, you know, first place, promotion, you've learned the language in a day, you know, this, that, and the other. And I think it's accepting that it's not going to happen overnight, or, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day, all that type of stuff. But maybe it's the process that I need to go through to really understand, like, being better can come in lots of different ways and variants. So it's kind of, and that's where, trust me, mate, I'm enjoying the conversations. I'm enjoying the.
I don't think I'm right. I always just put it out there. This is what I think about. This is how I think about things.
Yeah.
I don't, what I've also learned to do is like we talked about yesterday, maybe this is a whole new conversation really, just about the concept, Stuart, of, as I've said, who died and made me God. I'm very aware that my standard, my life is not applicable and is not a blueprint for everybody else. But the frustration and the suffering comes from when you're interacting with other people that suddenly don't meet up to my standards.
Yeah.
And I just like, that's not life. It'd be really boring. And equally, that helps me like put a glass shield around myself and go, you're not me. There's only ever going to be one John Regler that's ever lived in this universe. There's never going to be another me. So there's no point. And that soundbite, Stuart, that keeps popping up a lot recently is comparison is the thief of joy. And it's taking away from, I'm all right. I'm accepting of who I am. No, I don't want to hear all your thoughts about me. Not really bothered. You're not me, never going to be me. You haven't walked in my shoes. Please don't comment, And equally, then if I'm saying that about me, why don't I flip that and go, then don't comment on other people's lives. Don't comment on their choices and their decisions, and wait for the opportunity. If they ask you, as I said to you, if they ask for an opinion, then great, give it. But if they don't, just go, well, I'm here if ever you need me.
Yeah. And it's that emotional intelligence for me, like I've been in many situations where I want to be in the circle, around people that are going to strive and, and I enjoy that. But then there's other people out there, friends and family, and we've all got them, who clearly don't maybe have the same mindset as you or, the same aspiration.
Well, what I'm saying, Stuart, I think I'm not in that circle. Yeah. And yet I think we're best buddies.
Yeah, but that's my point. That's the point I was going to get at. It's kind of understanding that not wearing different hats for different scenarios. I'm definitely not that guy, but I think it's understanding my non-negotiables. I stole that from the High Performance podcast because they talk about it every week in every episode, the non-negotiable behaviours. And I was starting to really think about what my core three would be. And I hear you ask, what are they? So I was thinking about, what were they? My ears are good. Transparency, and I was thinking that can fall into any category of individual, CEO, company director, to your best mate who clearly works in a different field. And then I was kind of thinking about, I tried to think how I'd worded the second one, but it's kind of like not driving for excellence, but sort of like open-mindedness. I think that was the word I ended up concluding with, like wanting to learn, being open to learning things, whether that's, I don't know, why don't you add a bit of that in bolognese instead of having that? Or, maybe try this drink instead of that drink. And then the third one really in my head, mate, was kind of like the integrity. I'm thinking the amount of times over my life where I've been very fortunate, and some of those experiences have come from working with you, being able to travel to places, regardless of where I was, I tried to do the right thing, and so that's kind of how I'm trying to base, my life, and as I said earlier, and if my mum or dad or anyone watches this, dare I say, no harm was intended, but it's kind of trying to be open and transparent, as I said, with that really, in terms of how I think. And
I mean, it's really interesting, Stuart, because what you've just articulated is something that I've been reading in this, Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, and the word that Romans and the Greek philosophers used a lot was nature, and they don't mean like woods and birds and animals, but they do in a way. They're basically talking about what is your nature, what is your true nature, You think about it like that. Who are you at your core values, and what are those core values, and what makes a good man? And what you're describing is your opinion of what you think makes a good person. And then the aspiration is to surround yourself with people like that, because the opposite is frustrating and anger and suffering, because those people aren't doing it. And yet you can't avoid them. You don't live on a desert island.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you're always going to bump into people and meet people and get tricked. Oh, they came across like they were this type of person and shared my values. And then you find out later, actually, they don't.
Yeah, but that's the key message, isn't it? You know, and that's where I'm starting to really not. Me and you have different aspirations, but your values tie into
Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to get across to you. What, to just wrap that up nicely and tie it up in a nice deep bow. What I'm trying to get across is, if you link what I said, replace the word with nature, better with nature, then what word would I use to replace it? It's the true nature. It's not be better. Have I reached that standard? Have I been as consistent as I could be today with achieving the things that I value as my true nature? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's, instead of saying I just want to be better, I just want to achieve that standard every single day of being open-minded, you know what I mean, of showing integrity, of being transparent. Whatever words you would use to describe yourself, that's what you should aspire to have. And accept that, some days you're gonna maybe fall short from that. Other days you're gonna really exceed it. That's called life. But know what those things are, and instead of using the word better, I just want to be consistently this. Maybe a different word that you could use is consistent. I just want to be consistent in being that good person based on these values, this nature. Does that make sense, Stuart?
Oh, it does, yeah. And
instead of saying the word better, consistent.
Yeah, and then
if you're consistently doing those things, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and that's the difference, isn't it? I think of striving for that, whereas consistency, because you will be peaking and troughing. I mean, peaking and troughing even.
But also that doesn't, like I said, just to clarify, that doesn't discount the fact that you could be in the wheel of life a consistent 2 for weeks, for months, for years, and then now it's a 3. It's jumped a little bit. Now it's a 4. But when you look back over a longer period of time, haven't you improved? Haven't you got better?
Oh yeah, big time.
And that's the point then, isn't it? It's just consistency will lead to improvement.
Yeah.
It will.
Well, because I'm mindful of the time, mate, and I think that's a really important message to end on is, being consistent. And for those of you that are watching, me and John, we'll continue doing these for as long as we'll continue doing them for indefinitely. But consistency in checking in has made a big difference in our lives, and that's a key message that we're going to keep sharing, because John, I don't know the anniversary exactly of when it was when we first met. I'm going to dig it out if needed, but I think conversations and checking in has consistently improved my well-being and lifestyle. And for those of you that are watching, we really want your input and valued recommendations, and join us as a guest. We want people that we don't know, so please reach out. We're looking to involve someone, and myself and John have spoken about doing a Facebook Live at some point. We want to encourage conversation. And John, I've thoroughly enjoyed tonight, and it's I've consistently I'm going to consistently look to improve all aspects of my life and not become better. So other than that, mate.
Good man. Yeah, no, it's really good. And like I said, I really hope that when people, see it and share it, that they give us their thoughts and comments. If they think we're completely wrong and a bunch of idiots, then tell us. That's fine. That's what life's about, is learning, really, from other people, and yeah, sharing different thoughts and different opinions.
Yeah,
So do leave comments and likes and shares and spread the word, and yeah, it'd be really good.
yeah, definitely. But John, as always, mate, thank you. And then we'll catch up soon, mate. All right.
Yeah, as Vinny said, it's been emotional.
Top man.